get it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get the one that got away. I'm gonna get it. I know I'll get it. This time I won't let it get away. It was this fish.
How big?
This fish.
That
Well, big enough to make me want to say, I'm gonna get it. You can bet it. If it takes until my dying day. I hate it, I'll bait it, I'll hook it, I'll cook it, I'll damn you, fish, I'm gonna nail ya! No fish is gonna prove me up, baby. I'm gonna go fish Australia for the one that got away. No fish is gonna prove me up, baby. I'm gonna go fish Australia for the one that got away.
If you're thinking that this is a strange place for me to be talking about fish, you are right. Tell you what, you know, we fishermen, we're told they should have been here yesterday, last week, last month when they were really biting. Now, I'm about 10,000 years too late to catch even the tiniest tiddler, unless you include an old fossil or two. You know, this is all that's left of an area that used to be the Aborigines' favourite fishing ground. Scientific types tell me that signs of Aboriginal culture in places like this goes back 40,000 years when this was a lush wetland and it was teeming with wild fish life. In those days, this and other places like it was home for many people. These were our first fishermen. Naturally, they fished out of necessity so they could feed their people and survive. But I wouldn't mind betting even then that they'd sneak off to fish when they should have been didgeridooing or boomeranging around the campfire at night. I'll bet they told the same whoppers as the fishermen do today.
There's been some marvellous fish come out of this place. Beautiful fish and big fish. I've hooked some myself. I've never landed them. But, well, I didn't want to anyway. I don't want big fish.
Then I had the one they got a picture of down the pub in Adaminaby. I guess that's the real fisherman story, and they got a fella painted, they caught it, it was too big to land in a landing net, and they tied it to a fence post, because in those days when the lake was rising over the old properties, with the fences still in the ground, so they tied the fish to the fence post, and so they come back tomorrow and bring a truck in. And when they came back in the morning, the fish had pulled the fence down. I never caught it. It was gone.
Funny things happen. When I first started fishing, my father, he did at the harbour, he had a musket. It was ramrod loading, musket loading, muzzle loading. And we had to make every shot count. So we were camped over one of the rivers there. I loaded the thing up, I was supposed to get a duck, so a duck went over, shot the duck. I'd forgotten to take the ramrod out. Would you believe it, speared the duck. Well, the duck came down and fell into the water, and I got the end of the ramrod. As I lifted it out, the other end of it had gone through a redfin. Well, I got such a surprise, I tripped over backwards and sat in a rabbit. And I had a rabbit and a fish and a duck, all in one shot. Now, if you believe that, I'll believe his.
Those stories might be hard to swallow, but the one that I'm going to tell you is about as fair dinkum as you can get. Over the last 12 months, more than 4.5 million Australians went a line. They fished our rivers, our lakes, our estuaries, our harbours and our oceans. They fished with sophisticated equipment as well as the basic, but always high hopes and amazing dedication. While all this fishing was going on,
those 4.5 million Australians managed to part with a combined sum of nearly $2.5 billion. Now that is a heck of a lot of money in anybody's language to spend on your favourite pastime. So what is the great attraction? Why is it that so many people spend so much time and effort, not to mention money, and chasing a group of alien-looking creatures that have had 360 million years to practice being uncatchable? Just what are the emotions and passions that this business of fishing evokes?
I love it.
Oh, I suppose it's a thrill and the exhilaration and all of the fight. Fishing is one of those sorts of games where you'll never have all the answers, and there's a challenge every time you go out.
There's no simple answer, and the more involved you get, I suppose, the more you realise, the more you learn.
And just pitching your knowledge that you learn over the years against what's in the water.
It's a total environmental type thing, and it's something we're totally absorbed in.
Fishing is more than a sport with a lot of us. It's really a way of life.
You know, catching a fish is like a bonus, isn't it, really? But even so, the whole reason you go out is to catch fish, so that's the main thing.
While some anglers dream of chasing exotic fish in remote locations, others are content to dedicate a lifetime to understanding the character of just one special waterway. Alan Hoy is such a man.
Good morning,
and
Alan.
Lake Macquarie is his home ground.
How'd you go out there?
Oh, I got a few, not as many as I should have got for the time I'd been there, but got a feed, that's about all.
Well, how many's a few to you?
Oh, 10 or a dozen. Oh,
That's not a bad morning. What time did you go out?
3 o'clock.
It's an early start.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful out there in the morning. You've got the lake to yourself, and it's lovely to see the sunrise. I see it nearly every morning.
Well, that's a heck of a lot of sunrises, considering Alan's no chicken any longer, and either is his trusty old boat. He bought it for £99 when he was just a teenager.
And I'm 67 now, so that's 54 years. You make a hobby of it, and do a bit of variation. If you're not getting them one way, well, try another, and listen to everyone that's got something to say. You can always pick up something.
Well, they're all right, right? I mean, you don't see whiting like that in Sydney.
In the markets, perhaps, but we do get a lot of those.
But Alan has memories of such grander days.
When there was Big Taylor about, my wife used to keep a sort of a tab on things and that, you know, a book. And one year, we caught just over 5 tonne of Taylor in the 1 year. But you've got to remember, I go out lots of times. I'm not like a weekend fisherman that goes once a week, once a fortnight. My wife used to put an embargo on Christmas Day. It wasn't to go fishing Christmas Day, but one day out the front here, all these tailors, as long as your arm, were jumping out and singing out, come and get me, and I fought it for a long while, but I broke and I went out.
Alan is surely a traditional fisherman, but is there a typical fisherman? I think that they have one thing in common. It's the fanatical attachment to a game or a pastime that isolates them from the everyday cares of the world.
I like all kinds of fishing, but I guess the one that I get the most enjoyment out of is fishing in the mangrove creeks and estuaries up north, spinning for barramundi and mangrove jacks and those kind of things with lures in those tidal estuaries. It's thinking fishing because you have to read the environment that you're in and work out where the fish are going to be, on which particular snags they're going to be holding and so on. Then you have to work out whether to use lures or bait, and then it's usually casting rather than trolling, so it's active fishing all the time. You're casting lures at each snag. Sometimes the fish comes out and grabs them, sometimes it doesn't. You keep moving along until it does.
Bonnie?
Yep.
Looks like it's a catfish.
Baby. This is what
See? It's a catfish, man.
No, Mike, that's no catfish. That is the elusive northern threadfin salmon.
No. You beauty. It's like a yellowfin tuna, you know, they go around a big circus. You beauty. They are dynamite, these things. Oh no. At the moment my hands are shaking. It's absolutely fantastic. But I've got to put another lure on. Oh, what a fish. God. They're quick. Here we go. Hey, baby, get out of those snags. Oh, shivers.
You got him all right.
Yay, go, beauty. Oh, no. Snags.
That.
Oh, no. Come on, fish.
This one's
It's
like
not
a
that.
barra.
It's not that bad. Come on, fish.
Look at him.
Oh, he's got it. Oh, no. I'll try him again. That's a threadfin salmon. And he's a beauty. Oh, what a magic fish. Whew. Oh, these fish have destroyed more angles up here than anywhere else I know. Okay, fish, I'm going to take the lure out of your mouth. Get rid of these hooks. Ah, beautiful fish. Okay. Oh, it's beautiful. Well done, mate. Thank you for that. You're wonderful. There you go. This tail's into gear. Here you go. Thank you, fish.
Still not big enough.
Vera Shanahan and Sid Thomas are typical. They're a couple of fishing mates who spend a lot of their time pursuing their favourite sport. For these two, the target is that cunning vegetarian, the luderick or blackfish, and the location is most often Port Macquarie on the New South Wales mid-north coast.
I'm just starting to bite, man. Well, they have to be 10 inches. That's legal size. And if you don't put them back, well, you've got no fish for next year. We'd have thrown back 20 or 30 little fish this morning, all together.
Yeah. 20 or 30. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was there.
The wily blackfish, a great fighter
Good
and
fun, mate.
fresh,
Not hurting you.
eating.
Get them used to getting on the hook.
Yeah. Might make them if they think they can have a feed without getting caught. They can go back again.
Let's leave Vera and Sid and travel south to see another wonderful fighting fish, the evasive trout. Now, this is typical of what attracts the fishermen, the great Australian outdoors, the beautiful sun-drenched scenery, the sparkling waters, the peaceful environment, but, most of all, the hunt, the catch.
I'm in terrible trouble here. He's not going to fight very much. Yeah, it's a good fish too. Look at him. Oh, yeah. Beautiful colours. There we go. Come on, up you come. No, not going to come yet. I think it's the achievement of actually taking on a wild adversary in its own environment and being able to cheat by getting that trout to take fur, feathers and tinsel on the end of a hook against the real natural. And we've got a lot of things against us. There's a lot of hurdles. We've got that fly tied to a piece of nylon. It's most unnatural, really, and yet we're able to defeat that with a bit of guile and a bit of cunning, and we trip the trout up, and there's an intense personal satisfaction in being able to defeat the trout. And quite often we've got another big advantage. We can actually, when we've caught our trout, make that decision and release the fish. It's not like any other form of hunting where with shooting you've actually got to kill the animal that you're shooting to achieve. We've got the ability to be able to catch the fish, then let him go and go back and catch him another day. It's a rather unique form of blood sport, I suppose. On the other hand, you can catch him and eat him. Wonderful.
But what about fish of women? You might be surprised at just how clever the fairer sex can be when it comes to catching these devious little alien creatures hiding under the surface of the water. Ruth is 4 times Australian champion, so she's obviously no slouch when it comes to fishing.
It's not terribly difficult to outwit the fish the majority of the time. They're normally pretty simple sorts of things to catch, so maybe it's a game that's a little bit unfair. It's easy enough to win.
Yeah, I think fishing is a combination of the hunting instinct anyway, wherever you are, even in the mangroves, on this beach, rocks, even estuary, and game fishing. It's all hunting when it's said and done, and just pitching your knowledge that you learn over the years against what's in the water.
And I guess your powers of observation too, that's what I always think it comes down to with fishing. The thing that separates a really good fisherman from the also-rans is their ability to see what's going on around them and interpret the clues and work out where the fish are and what they're doing. Wouldn't you say so, Peter?
Yeah, and the other thing with fishing is that all the really good fishermen I know, they're all fishermen that fit in with different methods of fishing. They love fishing for barramundi on the little bait casters. They love fishing on the big boats for big marlin. They love fishing in, heck, you know, if they couldn't go fishing anywhere, they'd probably create just a little fishery in a gutter or something. But they just love fishing for every kind of fish, and it's not that they want to kill fish, because they release most of what they catch.
Most of them too, what they've got in common is they've been fishing since they were knee-high to a grasshopper, haven't they? Yeah. You know, and most of them started fishing as a kid on a wharf with a hand line wound on a bottle. I think that those people that have come up through the ranks of fishing tend to get a lot more out of it than people who come in right at the top end, whose first fish is a big game fish or whatever. I always can't help but feel that they've missed a certain something by not graduating through the ranks.
They missed a terrific lot. I started when I was 4 in the creeks at Townsville, and you could hear the crocs, and we were catching black bream and things. That I always wanted to go right out and fish for the biggest fish, and I've been very lucky that I've been able to do it. It comes down very often to people too. A friend of mine always used to say, it's not what you fish for, it's who you fish with.
Hey, Charlie, you got a bite in that second rod. You kidding me or what?
No. Wise in the ways of catfish, cod and golden perch, Charlie instinctively knows that telltale sign. No matter how subtle, no matter how seemingly insignificant, could be the sign.
Feels like a good catfish or
the
something,
sign of success.
Not a yellow belly. Yeah, it's a little cod. Look at that. Right, grab the landing gear, boy. This is going to cost you a schooner, this one. On the top of the water. Good one? Nah, it feels all right. Here he comes. Get right under him. Good on you, Jonesy. That just cost you a schooner, boy. I don't think you wanted the net thing, though. Nah, anyhow, I didn't know. He's a bit small. We'll have to throw this one back, Jim. Yeah. I'll let him go, I think. Anyhow, I'll just put him back down in here. I'll come back in a couple of years and catch this one. We going home, Jonesy? What one? F2. Hang on. Hang on, don't panic. He's going to beat yours too.
He's going to snag.
No, he's not budging an inch.
He's going to snag, mate. How far out do you reckon he is?
5 years to get the fish, Charlie. When I get one, what happens?
It's a worry.
Don't worry, all right. I've got to get that schooner off you, too.
Yeah, he's big enough to get it, mate. You can see him, mate. He's a beauty.
Yeah, you've done your schooner.
Right, hang on while I get under him. Don't lift him. Right up. I'm on him, mate. You got to be lucky, Jonesy. I wish I went home when I was going. Anyhow, we got him. You got him. That's a ripper. That's unreal.
Yeah, nice fish.
Why are you smiling for? Just because you beat me?
Yeah.
First time ever?
Another schooner you owe me.
Yeah. You got it that one. You earned that one, Jonesy.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I didn't think you was going to get off that snag neither, mate. That's right.
Neither did I.
Yeah. I reckon all these other towns mates ought to come up here too and get the lot.
Not the lot. We'll leave some for us Bingwood blokes.
Thanks, mate. There, JJ. That's the beer I owe you. You're a worry. I bet you...
You're a good winner, Charlie.
Yeah, well, I hate that losing, boy. Let me beat how you done it. I should have went home when we were ready to go. It started to rain, but it should have went. That's right. You should have left. Yeah. And now I've done it. Thanks, Jimmy. Good fishing.
Well, it's easy to see why Charlie and Jonesy like their fishing, because they're mates and they love it. But they're not exactly jet setters when it comes to fishing, because they never get very far from their favourite fishing spot. Tim Farriss, on the other hand, tours the world with his band In Excess, but never without his fishing tackle, always at the ready.
This is one of the most relaxing forms of fishing, in my opinion. Just, you know, a little bait caster and flip rod like this, you can take it anywhere, wherever there's water, and you can just cast lures. And if you keep a little, you know, handy pack of whatever kind of lures you are, almost wherever you go in the world, you can find the water and there'll be something down there. Come along and munch it. I do a lot of shark fishing on my boat, and we've got this theory that a lot of rhythmic, deep bass sort of end of the scale type noises will help attract sharks. So put some big bass speakers in the boat. You know, Port Stephens this area, we're going to give it a good whirl. See if we can bring out some sharks with some music.
I reckon that I've heard of most different kinds of bait and burley, but music. Nevertheless, Tim put it all together at Port Stephens, and off his small boat, what you need, bagged a real biggie, a huge tiger shark they called a grinner. So big, in fact, he needed help from 4 clubmates on the boat, Strangler, to get it in the port in time for the all-important weigh-in.
We'll give you the weight on the top, the small boat on the end here, number 8, What You Need, from the Broken Bay Game Fishing Club. The angler is Tim Farriss. We'll just have to release some weights and we'll give you a net weight.
Hey!
one. That's it, get a photo with your fish.
Jamie, look what Daddy caught.
Look, James. It's my shark.
The winner of this trophy for the most meritorious catch in the whole tournament by a male angler is Tim Ferriss, and it was not only a superb capture, but it was even better from a little boat. And when you look at the rest of the fish that were caught in the tournament, the marlin and the other great sharks, it makes it really something to remember. And if this is Tim's first tournament, I hope by the time that he's done as many as I have, that he's got lots of them. Well done, Tim.
Thank you, brother. Well, once again, I'd like to thank very much Stuart Tremaine and all the guys on the boat Strangler. If it wasn't possible for them that day, we would never have got home with the fish or without the fish. They took really good care of us. And also thanks once again to Hugh, Mara and the guys on Sundrape. Also, I'd like to thank Peter for his book, Big Fish in Blue Water. It was a great inspiration for me. Thank you.
Now you have some idea why 4.5 million people go fishing in Australia every year and spend $2.5 billion doing it. Next week on Go Fish Australia, we'll be whipping around the country fishing with the experts and talking about getting started with some incredible action from a 10-year-old you just have to see to believe.
I gotta have it. I gotta have it. So it's the end of the line. I gotta have it. Photograph it. This time I'll prove it was mine. I'm so sure. Now she's positive that she, sure enough, come rain or shine. Let me at it. I'm gonna have it. If it takes until the end of time, I'll dare you, outswear you, defeat you, then eat you. Damn you, fish, I'm gonna scale ya. No fish is gonna prove me a failure. I'm gonna go fish Australia for the one that got away. No fish is gonna prove me a failure. I'm gonna go fish Australia for the one that got away. No fish is gonna prove me a failure. I'm gonna go fish Australia for the one that got away.
Yeah, if we were just looking for fish, it'd be a darn sight cheaper to go to the market, wouldn't it?
Yeah.